GP. And we are live on Us Property Investors. That's very quick. We bring the bring names and we have the big fun. I fumbled it. How you going, Anna? What's happening?
Hi, how are you, Jeff? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining. And it is going to be a huge session because you are a self-made $25 million property portfolio person. So you don't often get to have those conversations with people. You're going to share the journey because this wasn't easily done. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You're going to share us the learnings and the lessons. You were telling me before you've managed to lose $1 million in development. So I said development's a little bit creative, and you told me that you said you're comfortable sharing. And then we're going to talk to, well, how do we learn, what lessons have we got from this? Because everybody's saying, okay, 25 million is a lot of money. Are you happy? All these questions we're going to share, and what is next for you? Because you've got a whole legacy play that you'll talk a little bit about. Because I think for you, it's not about that. You do it in the background. But Steve, how are you happening?
I'm good, man. Sorry for everyone. We're late because of me. I rushed in out of the shower looking after my little 2-year-old and put a hat on because I haven't done my hair. So apologies. But besides that, life's good. Yeah, did a webinar today, podcast. Life's busy.
Yeah, that's exciting. I was writing an article for an Airbnb income on lending today, as well as fighting for trust loans. So always fun always fun times on a Wednesday. So Anna, this is going to be a fun session. The reason I wanted to get you on, because you are absolutely I'm not going to say rags to riches, but you're the person that you've fought. You haven't just been handed that $25 million portfolio. You've worked incredibly hard for it. So I love these sort of underdog stories where people can share the wisdom, and whether somebody wants a $10 million portfolio or whether they want a 2 or 3 property portfolio, they can take the wisdom and the insights and the learnings and go and run with that as well. So, but you are a self-made millionaire with a $25 million portfolio. You're a GP. You're a refugee, came to Australia, and public school GP, and built the portfolio. You've many lessons you've learned along the way. So we're going to unpack those. But what I wanted to start off with was, what is it that got you to buying that first property? What was the motivation behind it all?
I'd also like to add, Jeff, she's one of the nicest people you'll ever met. That's just ridiculous for someone who's worth so much and with the same tenacity for growing a portfolio. So, yeah.
It's very impressive. Well done to yourself, Anna.
She'll probably disagree, but she is. She's really, really nice.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Jeff, my first property was actually the first house that I moved into after moving out of my parents' house, basically, and it was the marital home. It was a rundown shoebox, flood zoned, but it was the only thing that we could afford. We couldn't even scrape together 5% deposit for this derelict. So we paid lender's mortgage insurance and scraped together 5%. I was a second-year doctor at the time, and RMO 1 was the title. And that's how we bought our first shoebox. And I think I spent the first year or 2 defending that decision. It wasn't my decision. It was the partner's decision. It wouldn't have been a property that I would have gone and purchased. But as it was something that we could afford at the time. And 12 months later, that shitbox gave us enough equity for us to buy our first residential investment property.
Yeah. Well, how did you know it was all flood zoned and all this? Did you learn that after the fact, or you kind of knew and you just had to get into it because it was
Jeff, the signs were there. It was raised 3 meters above the ground on stilts, and it wasn't in Queensland. I'm from New South Wales. I'm from Sydney. And when a house is raised that high, half the street, all homes were raised that high, and it was right next to a creek. I didn't have to ask too many questions. It was a matter of what's the stat on that flood zone?
This wouldn't happen to be in the Liverpool region by any chance, would it? Or
it was in Wentworthville.
Oh, Wenty. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my hood. Yeah. There's Waterview. Waterview. It's right next to Toonga Bay, which is Toonga.
Yeah, beautiful Waterview. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Wow. That's and what? So you bought that purely? It wasn't so you didn't have the investment hat on. You purely were going to buy a house to move into.
It was just a house for 2 newlyweds to move into, and and that was what we could afford with the pennies that we had. Yeah.
Wow. Steve,
I
I'm sure you got
want to point out as well, Jeff, like doctors early on in their career aren't earning ridiculous coin. That comes much, much later. And I hope you don't get offended by this, Anna. GPs don't earn lots of money as well unless you do something creative, which we might go into a bit later.
Listen, for all the training that we do, I think back in the day, I graduated in 2001 and became an intern in around 2002. I think my pay then was $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my partner at the time, we were on the same level. So combined, we were on $50 an hour. That was after 6 years of training and being the top 1% of the state in the HSC. Doesn't count for much.
Yeah.
I don't think that the young doctors have got it much better now. Inflation has kicked in. A few enterprise bargaining negotiations have kicked in, but their pay is not very much. And a lot of the medical graduates now come out as a postgrad. So they've done a couple of years of another degree, then they've done another half a dozen years of a medical degree to come out with, I don't know what they're on now. I really don't know. I don't know whether it's $35 an hour, $40 an hour for all that training. It's not much at all. Yeah.
I don't know. Is one of my good friends who's a surgeon, and he's 38 years old. He's only just starting making money that he'd gawk at. Before that, it was a very normal, reasonable salary.
Yeah, it's very modest. It's very, very modest. Yeah.
And so you bought that first property, and then what sort of played out from there? You got used to being. The other thing I wanted to say is you were a single mum for the majority of the journey as well. So I think that
the whole journey that we're going to talk about tonight is me doing it on my own. Yes.
I wanted to sort of pause and take a minute on that, because how did you balance? Like you were sort of, maybe still doing a bit of study, postgraduate study potentially, and learning all that. But also, how are you then sort of finding the time to manage a household, but also invest? How did you do that? That's what I think is going to be interesting for people.
At which stage, Jeff?
We'll take a step back. What made you buy an investment property? Was it like similar to like maybe me and Jeff? You went to a few like presentations, or you saw some people, or was just that was the next step, was bought a house, now we're buying a property?
All right, so the driver was to get out of that renty property, Steve. It was, what am I going to do to get out of this property? I don't want to be in this property. This is not a home that I want to live in. I knew it wasn't a forever home, but it had to be better than this. And I think along the way, the idea crossed my mind that the only way I was going to do it was to find a supplementary income, And so while the husband at the time worked overtime shifts and picked up locum shifts, I started thinking about other creative ways of finding an alternative source of income. And like the majority of Australians, property, especially residential property, made a lot more sense than the stock market. I didn't know anything about finance in the stock market at the time. And all I had to do was look around my area and appreciate that even my own home had increased in value in those 12 months. And so it became just getting into the car and driving around the local neighborhood, because I remember the property that we purchased after Wentworthville was in Kellyville. So it was a newly developing area. The budget was still $300,000-$400,000, and I found land and house for in Kellyville for $400,000, and like I said, there was enough equity in Wenty at that stage to be able to purchase that as our first investment property 12 months later. And that then gave me the confidence to keep on going. I pretty much purchased the first 5 residential investment property by keeping to a budget of under $500,000. I just made sure, I just wanted to get into the game. I made sure that was affordable. I didn't have any special tricks. I wasn't knowledgeable enough back then. So I purchased 2 apartments and 3 land and houses, and they were all under 500, and then sat on it for another couple of years and then watched the patterns play out. Yeah.
I was going to say, did you have any like mentors back then, or were you just doing this? Because I know like culturally the medical field's notorious for
I wasn't well networked back then, you know. Now I know people like you, Steve and Jeff, but back in the days, there's no one. You don't talk about it in the medical fraternity, so I wasn't going to get any advice from there. My family and I are from very humble backgrounds, so no one talked about investments. Everyone talked about how to survive on a day-to-day, paycheck-to-paycheck basis, so you don't talk about investments. So it was just a matter of winging it, Jeff. It was just winging it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that sort of. I mean, similar. Probably yourself as well, Steve. Similar sort of upbringing. I was the first in at least mum's side of the family to go to uni, and that was sort of just unspoken. And investment properties were like maybe you had like the second cousin or somebody who decided to. They were that odd person that were investing, and you go to sort of family lunches or whatever it was, or birthdays and extended family, and you're like, okay, well, what's going like. Nobody's talking about this investing, so it's just amazing that you sort of found a way to make a way. Like you went to sort of I went to hundreds of seminars in the day just to sort of back when this is 2010. So, but were there any books that was Rich Dad Poor Dad one of those books, or what? Were there any wealth resources you picked up to read and learn?
I'm going to shock you by saying that I think I stumbled upon Rich Dad Poor Dad after I purchased a couple. Yep. So I pretty much learned by doing. Yep. Can I address the comment when someone's asked, will your portfolio hold up when rates hit 12%? Why I'd like to address that is to say that, you know, even back in the days when I didn't know much, I had fundamentals to ensure that I could safeguard what I was borrowing and what I was spending, so to speak. So, and we spoke about this, Jeff, before the cameras turned on, which was I paid P&I. I enforced P&I on all of my residential loans. And you know, it wasn't because I had heard that was the good thing to do or that I had to do it. It was because I was enforcing discipline on myself to make sure that I had enough money to pay extra into the loans. Number one, and number two was also my way of de-risking all these purchases. You know, remembering that back then my children are a little bit older now; they're teenagers, but back then they were toddlers. So while I was aggressive on the one hand in trying to build a property portfolio, I was de-risking myself by enforcing myself to pay extra, making extra mortgage repayments by making it P&I. So for a long time, so I chipped down on my loans so that for a very, very long time, my LVR was at 50%. So thank you, DS, to your question. I always ensured that the portfolio would hold up no matter what happened to me. Yeah. One of my biggest ones, yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out, like DS, no offense, like you've chosen an arbitrary number of 12%. I can let you know any investor who's self-made could not have managed a portfolio at 12% if it was large. At some point, you got to roll the dice. I personally had low interest rates, and I had to ask Dad for $5,000 occasionally when the air conditioners blow up and things like that. You've got to choose a point where you're going to be aggressive, and we will go into it later. Your portfolio is very, very low risk now because of cash flow, because of that hard working at the start. But you de-risk as time moves on. They don't go from 4% to 12% overnight. By having 5 properties, you've got the option to sell off. If interest rates start going up, you can sell off. And like you said, you're paying P&I, so you were risk mitigating, and not many people can handle 12%. Most investors now I'm buying residential for, they buy it. If it goes to 12%, they're stuffed. It's a different game. They're selling it.
And the way I think DS is, I think it might be Daryl, because I know he's one of the cheeky guys in Oz Property. He'll often say, "Oh, rates are going to go to 12%," and we have a bit of back and forth. So that may be tongue in cheek that. But you look at the banks, look at the APRA serviceability sort of buffer. They're very conservative, and they're saying it's 3%. So let's just say interest rates at the moment are somewhere between 5.5% or 6%. Your interest rates you're getting on your stock standard resi, maybe a little bit cheaper for owner occupiers. Commercial maybe 6.5, give or take. Steve might, depending on the LVR, all that sort of information and what type of loan it is. But they're sort of the banks are assessing you at 8.5%, 9%. So they're automatically, there's that buffer built in. But interestingly, you hit on the question. I wanted to know what sort of and we're sort of going ahead a bit of time here, but what how much buffers do you have? Do you have a per number per property or overall portfolio? What numbers do you have sort of saved up in offsets or redraw for yourself?
So like I said, I maintained that LVR of 50% for a very, very, very long time.
Yep.
And it's only very, very recently, and Steve and I will talk about my latest acquisition that I got through Steve's team, where I put on the equity of all of the resis as a deposit for the latest commercial acquisition, and that's brought my overall property portfolio LVR to 68.5%. So there's still a very healthy buffer there. And I'm willing to share that, half of my portfolio is commercial and the other half is still resi. I haven't sold anything that I've purchased yet. No other reason other than I haven't had to. But the cash flow is so strong and the buffer is very strong. The offset accounts are very strong. And it's healthy.
I think let's keep going through the journey so we stay in like a linear progression. So you got the 5 residential deals, and then where were we at that? And if you don't mind, maybe talk about your divorce if you're comfortable doing that as well, because that obviously has a huge impact on portfolios.
Yeah. So we had attained 5 together, and at the by the time I got divorced, it was down to 2. Okay. So it was the family home. Yep. So, and then the one, so within that portfolio, one was a commercial property. Well, we had acquired 2 very simple commercial properties on our own, and in the divorce, I kept one of them, and then I continued to build further on my those 2 portfolio. And in 2020, when COVID hit, and I had to assess my numbers to see whether what I had to be able to take care of myself, my children, and the people that I work with, that I really scrutinized my numbers and had an aha moment. And that aha moment was that one commercial property brought in more income than my 5 resis combined. So by 2020, I purchased another 5 on my own and had that commercial property, and have continued on with that commercial property and acquired another one on my own. But that one commercial property superseded the 5, and so that was an eye opener. So I'm happy to share that particular property was netting me over $100,000 per annum. And my residential properties, I never purchased to negatively gear, because to be able to do what I did on my income, I couldn't be severely negatively geared. So I'd accept up to $5,000 of negative gearing per property, per purchase, but I wouldn't buy it if the numbers were more than that. Right?
So just on that, Anna, because would you not be buying a lot of residential now because the cash flow just isn't there? Or would you say, okay, great, I'm just going to put down a larger deposit to meet your sort of 5K criteria that you set? How do you think about that?
So in terms of strategy now, so if we go along to the story, having had that aha moment, at that point in 2020 and up until now, like, to me, commercial property is how you accelerate your cash flow and how you accelerate your wealth. And while residential is a really good foundational ground and foundational play to build your foundation, to get that equity, ultimately, if you want the cash flow, you have to get into commercial property. And so all my purchases, majority of my purchases since 2020 have been commercial. I have acquired one more residential, but it's a unique piece. It's a beautiful piece. That's, you know, cliff top. You know, the views will always be there. It's something that I can you know, there's an upside to build a duplex. It'll make it for a beautiful, you know, family holiday home as well as a holiday rental. So that's one that I've acquired since 2020, but the rest have been commercial. And yeah, the cash flow is just amazing because the yield is so good.
That property I know was kind of like your vision board property of the cool. This is how I know I've made it, which is really cool as well. But I think as well, Jeff, you mentioned about obviously like the resi to grow the portfolio. Anna's always had a low risk anyway, and she's always had a portfolio under 70%. So all of a sudden that discussion goes out the window a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, it's interesting. People's kind of, some people are like, oh, how can I borrow at 90% or 95%? And I'm like, well, we can. The rate's going to be a little bit higher, touch higher, above 90 or above 80, sorry. And then there's some people like, oh, you know, I want to reduce how much I'm putting towards it. I want to put 20 to 30%. And where that comes from equity, which is borrowed 100% anyway. Yeah, they sort of are people like that. They're like, okay, great. So everybody sort of thinks differently. But that's interesting. You sort of thought that way. So you probably saw some good growth from residential, did you? Is that kind of, and then you thought, okay, great, residential cash flow is not getting me there. And you thought, okay, I got to do something a little bit different. And for some people, yes, that's shares. I know it's a dirty word talking about shares, but if you don't have that expertise, maybe that's not for you. And you mentioned you kind of, yeah. So some people say that. I'm not giving advice either way. Commercial is one of those. Some people love to do granny flats. Some people love to do unit blocks. So how did you sort of go into commercial instead of these other different sort of avenues? Not so much shares, but let's keep it property centric. Why didn't you do like granny?
So the commercial. So after observing that one commercial property in my portfolio exceeded and had the capital growth, so it had the rent that exceeded my 5, and it had the capital growth in there that was equivalent of the growth in my residential property as well. Then became a no-brainer. It was and you kind of married that with my mindset in 2020 as COVID was hitting, 2020, 2021 as COVID was hitting, that if I got sick being a doctor, what did I have left over to tell, you know, those that survived me to take care of my children? And so the brain switched to cash flow very quickly. If I couldn't doctor anymore, where was the money going to come from? And it was going to come from this one property. Yeah. Right? I want
to unpack that a little bit. So like when you were accumulating the resi at the start, was there a goal, or was it just like most people just like, let's get another one, and then so that the commercial was that light bulb of like, there's something in the cash flow here, and then there was more worry about concern of the family and passing it on.
Precisely right. So when I was investing in resi, I didn't know that healthy cash flow existed. So all I knew was that you purchase resi, you hold on to it, you wait for the capital growth, you pull on the equity, you buy the next property. And the key to be able to acquire more was to minimize negative gearing so that you could continue to have that borrowing capacity to buy more. That's about the fundamentals and the math that I understood. And based on that, that's how I knew to purchase properties that wasn't too heavily negatively geared. But I never realized that from property, I could make a healthy income. It was just not something that had been taught to me, or that I've stumbled across. It wasn't until I looked at my own portfolio and saw that commercial property that the light bulb moment occurred. Yeah.
Good old DS has come up with a great question. He said, if you had to start again in today's market, and sort of, have you read the script, DS? This is some of the question we're going to ask later. With prices where they are, would you go into commercial sooner? Do you think resi is an essential stepping stone? What do you reckon about that, Anna? It's a good question.
Look, if you had nothing like I had nothing, you'd have to go into resi, because it's an easier stepping stone. It's easier to borrow at 90-10 LVR. The banks are more willing to lend you that money. So it's definitely easier. And if you've got time because of age, if you've got time on your side, then the growth will be there. It's such a safe asset. So definitely to build for my deposit, I would go into resi first. But as soon as I can afford it, I would jump into commercial. I don't know whether you agree with that, Steve and Jeff, but as soon as my resis give me the equity to purchase a commercial, and now I know that you don't need a lot to buy into commercial. Little commercial warehouses can start at $500,000 and $800,000. I know because we've helped doctors even buy those little ones as a stepping stone. I would go into that because it's so clear now that the yield, is so good at that, like between 5.5 to 6.5%. It's paying for itself. The risk is so low if you purchase a good property. And I'm telling you, the growth is there. If you purchase well, the growth is there, if not even more, because you're not just relying on location anymore. You've got those inbuilt rental increases that come in with a commercial property that further increase the value of the property even further. Yeah.
When you were buying the resis, were you utilizing like the Medico no LMI rules with some lenders? Was that helping you out as well? Or because you mentioned like one of the early ones, you had the lender's mortgage insurance?
Yeah. So what doctors get now at 5% no LMI didn't exist back in the day. I needed at least 10%. Yeah.
Yep.
With no LMI. Yeah. And borrowing for IPs was still 80. You still have to come up with a 20% deposit.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's been. I remember when I first started, there was that sort of ANZ really specialised in that medico space. Like they absolutely love doctors. They throw money at doctors now, hand over fist. And it's ANZ is an interesting lender. Haven't ever been a huge fan of them, except for doctors. But anyway, I hope nobody from ANZ's watching this. I love you, ANZ. Anyway, send me some tickets to some sporting games.
I have this potent memory of banks and where I started learning that not all banks are the same and not all brokers are the same. If I may share, I know we're segueing a bit, but I remember talking to an ANZ mobile lender one year. This is quite a while ago, and he looked at my pay slips and said, Anna, really, the maximum that you can borrow is $400,000, right? My pay slips. And I remember being a bit of a dickhead at the time, thinking to myself, come on, surely there is some merit to me having potential as a doctor despite this pay slip. And so, I decided not to look at $400,000 places as the potential next home. I went bigger. I actually looked at waterfront, and I looked at waterside. I knew I couldn't afford it, but I looked into it. I was trying to think bigger and looked into it, and found this beautiful place by the water that at the time was asking for 1.2 million. Right?
Definitely not your Wentworthville waterfront property.
It wasn't the Wentworthville waterfront property. Now listen to me. By that stage, I had heard no shares with BOQ. You haven't banked with them, but back in those days, BOQ was the big medico lending space people. So I gave their broker a call and said, I found this place. I love it. It's actually 1.2 million. This is, I'm an RMO, blah, blah, blah. Do you think I can borrow this amount to purchase this property? Threw in the fact that husband was also an RMO. Would that help? I kid you not, within that same week, I got yes to a 1.2 after someone had said no to a 400. That really taught me. That was a huge, it was another aha moment to just not rely on one broker to tell me what a bank would lend me and what not. Yeah, which bank?
Some of the conversations I've had around that as well. It's very interesting. You just have to say, well, what does the situation need to look like for this person to borrow in this way? And it's actually not exclusive to doctors, lawyers, all the higher earning professions. You can actually then sort of start to say, well, what do we need to change about the scenario? To get even somebody I know who's sort of getting into their 60s and as soon as I thought they were in the 50s and I found out they were 60s, I was like, oh, that could be a challenge with exit strategy. And it's just then saying, okay, well, if you go straight down to your local CBA or whoever it is, CBA is probably a bad example, but they'll say, okay, what is your exit strategy? How are you? And they'll say, well, we'll give you a 20 or 15 or 20-year loan term because, and it's then just sort of saying, okay, great. What do we, who else do we need to speak to and package that deal as you did with that thing going to BOQ as well to say, okay, here's my scenario rather than you just, rather not you. Yeah. So that's sort of saying it's kind of whether you're earning your, whether you're a doctor earning 150 or whatever it is, plus a year, or whether you're earning your sort of 70 or 80, 90, there's going to be doors you can go through. It's just what levers can you pull in your portfolio.
You're right, Jeff. No one understands us more than we, our own story. We've got a story and we've got a reason, we've got a strategy and we've got an explanation for things. And the banker, if the banker can understand that story, more doors will open. You just need to tell your story and tell that story and share your ideas and share your thoughts. So you're absolutely right, Jeff. That storytelling piece is so vital. No matter whether you're at buying a $500,000 property or $5 million property, I storytell. I let them know what the story is behind it and where I'm going with it, and it really helps them to make that decision. Helps them a lot.
I think one of the hardest things with planning for doctors as well is you know this better than anyone because you mentor so many doctors. That there's actually a clear progression of wealth for certain specialties. Again, no offense, GP is not one of them where it just kind of quadruples in value very quickly, but there's definitely ones that kind of progress. And I've always found them really hard to do some property planning because do you go out and buy the $400,000 Wentworthville ones at the start, knowing full well that if you just hold on 5 years, salary can go from 150 to 800. And then that's this weird little waiting spot of, okay, do we wait? Do we go commercial? Do we buy a cheap one? Do we keep progressing? There's no right answer, I think, but what are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. There are a lot of nuances behind how I would strategize for each particular doctor, depending on which specialty they're in. Because, and I don't know, there's going to be a lot of non-doctors listening and thinking this is just, a waste of my time. But yes, so you might have certain specialties that will have that rapid, acceleration, but they're later on in life, Steve, right? So and so they need to leverage their income to do the catching up strategically. And then you've got those on the specialties, GPs and a few other specialties where the income is modest, but they're able to start a little bit earlier. Right, and they probably also have the mental bandwidth to be able to think and plan a little bit more outside of medicine, because certain specialties you are very much consumed by medicine and really don't have time and space for anything else. So they can afford to do a bit of the slow game, the GPs and the medical specialties. So I would do it differently. For each individual based on where they're at and their risk appetite.
That was exactly my answer. I know how long it takes. It's a long time. You had 5 properties in that meantime. So if that is doubles in value, you've got to spare a couple mil, then imagine the commercial you can buy or the beachfront property.
That's right. Yeah.
Interestingly, you say it's doctors, and I think what you're saying there is actually relevant to most professions, Anna, because I've seen an electrician in their mid-20s who are Michael, and he's about to buy his 3rd property, and he's just started young and sort of let time done itself. But his progression is, okay, great. I've met a cap here at my income. I'm going to go and look at how do I increase my income? He's doing sort of weekend jobs to help that cash flow. He's moved employers and roles and sort of said, okay, great. I'm going to go from 120K income now to 150K. And it's, I even saw it in my corporate career. People just said, oh, look, I'm waiting for the employer or the boss to come to me to give me a pay rise. And maybe, look, that actually happened to me once or twice. I was very lucky. I didn't ask, but you often have to demonstrate where your value is. And that's where your conversations with either your broker or your banker, it's saying, well, what money do I need in this scenario to buy that next property, if that's the goal? So it's relevant for all professionals, I think.
Well, I think that's a good point to touch on for Anna, because like what people don't know, obviously you had lots of properties, went through a divorce, portfolio basically halved.
Yep.
single mum looking after kids, and then trying to progress a medical career at the same time with its own risks of starting a business as a GP and stuff. Like, was that
Well
extra
done.
fuel, I imagine, at the time to be like, cool, I've had this taken away, let's go again?
Yep.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard.
I can't even manage a 2-year-old when I'm in a relationship. I can only imagine having multiple kids.
Ice cream, Steve. The answer is ice cream. Ice cream. And lots
They don't need to raise it for so long, Jeff. The next hour is worse.
then they go for a nap.
Sacrifices had to be made, and I decided at that stage, it was a personal decision. Not everyone will make this decision, but I decided that a financial security was what was required of this family of 3, and so it meant I saw very little of my children when they were toddlers, because I dedicated all my time to work and to build that financial foundation for us. But you know what, and I've discussed this with you. One of my legacy pieces, or one of my motivation, is to be able to be a role model for my children. And what I'd like them to see is that, you can be a hard worker and you can make smart choices, and that it can and will create options in life for you. So yeah, so that's how I did it. So it's hard, but I now I just take lots of photos, and they're the memories for us.
I've got your socials. I see the travels you take them on as well.
Yeah, I'm big on experiences with them. So yes.
The audience, there's so many people watching us. I mean, not to put you on the spot, Anna. So drop some questions and comments, people, because this is we didn't get. It's funny, the registration doesn't always correlate to the watches of the show. So definitely jump in the comments and throw those questions if you, because I think it's interesting. The thing I wanted to get out there as well is where you're potentially coming to our meetup in a couple of weeks. I want to get these kind of stories, this information out to as many people, and you'll be able to meet people from around the country. So come to that. We're Sunday, the 14th of September. We are selling those tickets fast, so jump in there. We've got people from Gurav. You love Gurav, Steve. You get to meet him in person. And he's built that. We've got Kelly G. Adams. We've got people who've built. We've got nurses as well. So I'm excited.
Got Jeremy Unazeli, who's watching right now. I can see.
Is he? I didn't even see Jeremy. Jeez.
No, he's on Facebook.
No, that's I'm trying to get some of my friends to reach out to me and said, Jeff, I want to come to this event. If I'm free, if I can get babysitters, I'm coming along. So I'm just I've met people.
Bring the kids along. We'll teach them about resi and commercial.
No, because then I have to, yeah. But no, Anna, now that you've built those networks, so how did you go? Because I think this is an important thing for people, whether it's with us or whether it's if you're a doctor or in your own profession as an engineer or if you're a sparky, an electrician or a plumber. How did you go about sort of starting to find those like-minded people? Where did you find these people?
I suppose I've always found people when I've asked for help, and it's been as simple as that. At every stage of my journey, I actually have not been shy to just even talk to just friends, just say, I'm actually stuck. So I remember talking to a girlfriend and saying, I don't think that my accountant is being very helpful, because I just don't feel like the answers that's given to me make sense, nor does it have any depth to it. I just feel like something's missing, and in that conversation, they would introduce me to, perhaps their accountant, who's property savvy, and I'd chat with them, vibe with them, learn from them. Often the people you work with, so I work with Steve quite a bit now, they become your accidental mentors as well. You become inspired by them, and then through them they introduce you to their friends and network, and it's just this whole inspirational crowd then grows from that. But it has always started from me saying, I need help.
It also, Jeff, works the other way. So Anna's introduced me to mortgage brokers and accountants and things like that, and it actually extends because you start seeing other professionals that are working with certain other types of professionals, and it helps everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I've done it. Yeah.
Or go to
Yeah.
Ozprop, or go to an Ozprop seminar in person. You can meet them all there.
No, I'm excited because I was talking to one of the big sort of members in the group who's been, I suppose, influential, and I love to sort of just gauge ideas and concepts because even I still do it these days. If I'm stuck with something, I'll reach out to Jeremy. It's just. And even I'll reach out to people who I suppose I know. Yeah, reach out to these people, and they'll reach out to me occasionally as well. Look, it's harder for me to get back to everybody these days, but I love helping people. And there's those people that have, if you know somebody, oftentimes the people that have gotten to where Anna or Steve or whoever it is has gotten to, they will often have been helped by somebody else. So if you, sure, you have to be respectful of their time. Maybe if they reach out to 10 people, maybe 2 or 3 people get back to you, but it'll be those 1 or 2 out of that 10 that'll say, okay, cool. You just catch them at the right time. And you strike up a conversation, and then next minute you're speaking to 4 other people that person knows, because that person might be a little bit too busy, but they know 3 other people that are have a little bit more time and capacity, and then you start to snowball that. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me probably a good 3 to 5 years, not to make it about me, to it took me that to start to build out that network, and that's where I sort of then started to meet people like Joe, who you start to get a feel for the people that are going to go places, and not to say that you don't help people that aren't, but Tim's asked some good questions on the Facebook chat. He said,
I was going to ask that one.
Yeah, which one though? There's 2 of them. There's strategy and there's hurdles.
Biggest hurdles. Let's go on that. So do you want to?
Is that a question for me? Is that a question for me?
I'll read it out. So Tim said, what was some of your biggest hurdles to overcome? What did you do to get past these?
In terms of property, I have made mistakes. So 2 come to mind. The 2 apartments that I purchased, I wouldn't do that again. They were both brand new. I've had them for close to 10 years now. They've always been rented, and the rent has continued to go up with each new tenancy because they're well located. But the growth in them, I've had to wait a long time to see any capital growth in them. So I could not have relied on them to build equity to make more acquisitions. I have thought about selling them many times, but I'm now at the stage where it makes, it makes such a small proportion of my portfolio that selling it kind of makes no difference to the overall picture. So that's why I've kept it, but I wouldn't buy it again because it really doesn't serve any strategy. It doesn't grow, and it doesn't really give any significant cash flow. So I wouldn't do that again. So that's apartments. So land is all I'll go for. The second thing I've learned is in construction. So my portfolio has had properties that has required an uplift. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is to never prepay a builder on their invoices, which is exactly what I did in one of the most costly mistakes I've ever made, which is the builder asked for prepayment of each invoice before he'd carry out that part of the work. And I said yes to it. And then $1 million down, that builder declared bankruptcy. And I never saw that a single cent back. So what's the learning lesson in there? Always pay after the work has been done, and spend money on a quantity surveyor to survey the work and to verify that the work has actually been done before you put out a single cent towards that part of the project.
Yeah. The development's always one, you just don't know what you don't know. Like residential, there's a few steps, like don't buy apartments, don't buy a good land component, don't buy a flood zone property. But development, you have all that plus just so many other things that go on. I heard there's a good book out in stores about it called Property Development. Explain to
I'm about to write more.
You and someone else? Yeah. Liam? Yeah.
How is Liam? Is Liam, he might not be coming. He might be, anyway, we won't talk about Liam's personal life. Anyway, I'm passionate about this one because I grew up with, and I mentioned it maybe a little too much these days, with a single mum as a parent as well. She went down a slightly different path. Her main focus was with spending as much time with me as she could, and I respect both paths. Both paths are amazing. There's no right or wrong sort of path. But Fiona said, Anna, I would imagine you're an extremely busy professional, and as a mum, how much time per week, month do you spend on your property investment? Do you do it on days off, before, after work? Yeah, that's a great question, Fiona. Thanks for asking. We'll see you at the event as well.
Fiona, I actually spend very little time on my investments because they are such boring investments that they don't require much of my time. So when I find that there is a cluster of activity, so I'm talking property acquisition and investment now, there's a big hive of activity when you're doing your due diligence on property, and then when you decided that you want to purchase it, there's so much activity with talking to brokers and bankers, getting that money together, and then finding a property manager. But once you've purchased it and all those key people are in place, it's crickets. It's really crickets for a long time, and that's especially the case for commercial. I don't hear much of my commercial property, and with my residential, maybe once or twice a year I might have a maintenance issue, but the property manager is right onto it, and I'll see the email for to approve for them to call out a plumber or some maintenance person to fix the hot water system. I'll approve it. They organise it. It happens. It gets deducted from the property management fee, and that's that. I suppose it's only now where my portfolio is at the size that it is that I've enlisted the help of an assistant to kind of assist me in all aspects of my life, not just the property portfolio. The property portfolio is one of them. But yeah, boring sound properties actually don't require too much of my attention once the purchasing phase is over. The maintenance phase doesn't require a lot of work. I don't really look at it again until the property management contract is up for review. So it requires me to renegotiate that contract, or I'm reviewing my portfolio for refinancing because I want to go and buy another property or do something with the equity. Then I'll give it a lot of time and attention. But in between, in the maintenance phases, there isn't much work to do.
Yeah, I think it's
maybe I should tell people how many properties I have to make up that 25. I only have 12. I only have 12. Yeah.
I think I'd be comfortable with me saying this. So you used a buyer's agent for some of the residentials as well, and it wasn't me, and they're a good, competent buyer's agent, so that mitigates a lot of the risk as well. Yeah,
so I used buyer's agent for one.
Okay, just one.
Just one.
For one of the resi. So you bought the rest of the resi yourself, some of the off the plan sort of. Yeah. It's interesting. And in terms of your tax sort of planning and having those conversations, how often do you sort of sit down and have those? Are you having them sort of biannually, or are you having them sort of around once a year? Like how often are you having them?
When I was simpler, it would be once a year. When I then started acquiring a few more properties and was on the roller coaster of of buying in succession, it became twice a year. There was the planning phase. There was the planning phase at the in the first half of the financial year, and then consolidating it all in the latter half with the accountant. So there would be 2 big sessions a year. And these days, because I have quite a few structures and entities and that needs to be reconciled by the accountant, Jeremy just gets harassed multiple times a week, and if he doesn't respond, he'll have a follow-up text and a phone call and an email. So,
I think you're really good at your inner circles as well, because like you obviously got like the individual chat with me, the individual and Jeremy, then we have our group chat where we talk about you as a whole, as collectively, so that way the professionals are working together.
Yeah. I think that's not to take the limelight too much, but I think that's super important, because I was speaking to somebody today. They were saying, "Oh, it's a breath of fresh air." Somebody wanting to have the conversation with the accountant, because to me, you really head off a lot of issues down the track if you're having those and understanding and getting the professional on board with the accountant on board with what needs to, well, not what needs to, but what. If you've got trust and that they need to be comfortable with declaring and giving that information to the lender to satisfy the loan. Because if they're not comfortable doing that, then that's okay. But then we need to sort of figure out, well, what are they comfortable doing? Whereas if you do that sort of after the fact, it delays things, and particularly where there's a purchase online, if you're sort of a stock standard. I'm not saying you are fairly, I mean, you've got a huge portfolio, Anna, but for you're extremely humble. So you're not sort of, pulling out stops here and there. But I think that's something for people to consider. What I wanted to, we did speak about this, Elijah, how important are buffers with 25 million? So Anna said previously that she always had buffers and loved that buffers. But what do you think about this question from Elijah?
It's a really, really important question, Elijah. So thank you for that question. Buffers are really important. In a commercial property, you want to safeguard for times of the property being untenanted. I mean, I've been fortunate in that none of those properties have been untenanted as yet, but the advice is to plan for at least 6 months of vacancy. So personally, by always striving to gear my loans towards 50 LVR right now, like I don't know whether you heard me say a bit earlier, but I've pushed it to 68, but I will work towards bringing it down to 50 again. I can sleep very easily, because it's very easy to have vacancies when you've got, when you're only half in debt, and when you've got strong cash flows you do from commercial, and when the resi's all pretty much neutrally geared. So there's not much debt there. There's a lot of buffer there. Yeah. It's a sleepability factor too. It's whatever will allow you to sleep at night, and 50% allows me to sleep at night. 68, I might wake up once or twice, but I can go back to sleep pretty quickly. But for someone else, it might be 70 or 80%. It's very individual. Yeah.
I could sort of sit at that 70 or 80, but at the same time, I'm not a decamillion or thereabouts decamillion in debt. So maybe ask me again actually, I don't think I'll ever get to that much in debt, but never say never. Steve, I want to say this is a little bit of a technical question, but I think it's probably a question for any of you, and I think Anna, but also maybe Steve, I can answer it too. Is there any particular software, thanks for asking it, Bradford, or any programs you use to bring together all the income and expenses of the properties for tax and records, or still spreadsheets or live feeds such as Xero? How do you run that? You probably got a bookkeeper, I imagine, Anna.
So my assistant runs so a couple of things. The latest thing being the software that you've introduced me to, Steve.
The group knows Jordan Jajong very well, Game Plan. So we bring Game Plans, which might be a good segue to bring up the graph after Anna finishes what she's talking about.
Yeah.
But we did that to draw a portfolio review.
Yeah. So before Game Plan, it was purely Excel and Xero, as a way of bookkeeping.
Yeah. And now you've got obviously a PA as well who helps manage it and work with the bookkeepers, etc.
A portfolio analyst or a personal assistant?
Me?
You said PA.
Yeah.
A personal assistant.
Oh, okay, PA. Yeah. Cool. Well, look, we'll bring that up because I think people probably want to know about structures. Do people everybody always wants to talk about structures, and does it give you unlimited borrowing capacity? Probably doesn't. But we can talk to a little bit of that after our first live, and it's going to be somebody you'll know.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policeyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
Oh, here
That
we
was
are.
funny.
And it's short as well. Joe has like one that's like 18 minutes long. So anyway, we'll put Paul's and we'll share some information about that. That's a really powerful graph that will bring it up. Paul has asked a good one though. He said, "Hi Jeff, Steve, and Anna. Would you agree that after your experience from starting your portfolio journey and obviously doing your researches, did you go in aggressively and wanting to keep purchasing properties? Think people should not be scared and enjoy the rewards." That's interesting. I mean, we've probably got contrasting, maybe Steve and I might be a little bit more aligned, but Anna, how do you think about, that's a big question. I think it's 2 questions in one. Did you go aggressively wanting to keep purchasing or think people should not be scared and enjoy the rewards? Are you talking about selling down some, Paul, or I'm just trying to pick up the difference there between that? Is he saying maybe you shouldn't go as aggressively, maybe you should tone it down? Yeah, I think he's wanting us to answer how hard did we go? Anna, how did you think about that anyway in your early sort of days?
I suppose in the early days, I was aggressive. I was in the acquisition phase, so I just wanted every single cent to go into investments, and that for me was property. But yes, you have to define when it's time to stop, or when it's time to slow down, or when it's time to spend that money and enjoy money a bit. So it's a really good question, and it's very relevant. I don't budget when it comes to experiences. So when I go on holidays with my children, I don't count the pennies. And that's why I do what I do in terms of investing, so that it can pay for my experiences without me needing to worry about the cost of that travel. Yeah.
That's probably a good like segue into, so like obviously you've been asked this, I know you've been asked this, and I've been asked this as well. Like, when is enough enough? And that's always a hard question to answer. Whereas you could theoretically just let your portfolio pay itself off now, and you will be fine. And this is the realization we had when we did the game plans. We're like, you're going to be okay, Anna. It's now what are we trying to achieve? Legacy, charity, more time with kids, extra passive income, and there's no right answer for that.
There's no right answer. You're right. I could have comfortably retired, however way you'd like to define that, quite a few years ago. If anything, my cash flow would have been better off had I stopped building on my portfolio a few years ago.
So I brought
I'm
up
doing it now, not because of any other reason than the fact that it's I enjoy this journey. I have diversified from property. I continue to work because I think it's a waste of a doctor's skill set to continue contributing to the community with the skills that I have. And I'm not near retirement age yet. But I consider living my life now as if I'm in retirement. It's because of the choices that I have. I do it out of choice now, not because I
was going to say, have you ever struggled with where to focus your attention, whether it be more on property, more on work, more on the kids? I imagine that's quite a one when you've got the GP practice doing really well. And I personally, the reason I'm asking this selfishly, because it's like, oh, if I put more effort into my business, I can probably make more money, which will then get me more properties. And it's kind of like a weird chicken and egg situation.
I do on a daily basis. And on days when on days when I'm not having a good day, I ask myself that question all the time. Yes, I do. It's a funny predicament that one chooses to continue to work and work hard when one knows one doesn't have to. But those moments are little in comparison to the days where I feel like I'm continuing to contribute towards my community and doing what I do.
Yeah.
Without going too airy-fairy, I find the harder you work, the sweeter the relaxing is. So it's that weird balance of, if you're not working hard, you don't enjoy the relaxation. So it's like like going to the gym. Go to the gym, you work out really, really hard, and you have a chicken schnitzel that night at the pub. It tastes delicious. It's awesome. If you're on holidays and you eat crap-fired food for 5 days in a row, not so fun at the end.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I do enjoy my travels more after I've worked. I've been working quite hard. For it. Yeah, and I do get bored if the travel duration is too long. So yes.
I think you. I don't know, to go down even a little deeper into the airy fairy, as Steve calls it, or woo woo, whatever kind of. And I had a bit of a graph. The Tony Robbins. You know how familiar you guys are with Anthony Robbins and Tony Robbins. Those 6 kind of different paths of significance, or whatever, the different paths. One is, I suppose, significance. One is freedom. There's a couple of other ones. I'm just going to mention those 2.
Contribution. Yeah,
contribution. So I think it sounds like, I could be wrong here, but you guys could be a little more focused on the significant side. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. I don't know if you know the other ones. For me, I'm very much, my highest value, I think it's 5 or 6 values, is freedom. Absolutely freedom to do what I want with my time. Like, to me, whilst I see, like, I feel the concept of having a business with 30 or 40 people, employees, and maybe I could change, but I don't think I will. I love the idea that I could earn a fairly good crust and work 2 or 3 days a week, and then sort of, but have the ability to go and do my study or go and learn about a different type of nutrition to really optimize that side of me. Because, or go and spend time with the kids, because they're already growing up so quickly. But there's no right or wrong again, but that's kind of the way I think about it. Paul?
One of the hard things, Jeff, and like you'll find this with most people who have experienced building an actual passive income, is the freedom that disappears as well. So like, what you actually have to decide what your freedom is. So like, you went through a few things like, I could go study, you could probably do that now. It'll be more stressful because you're doing night classes and this and that. But it's actually working out what part of that freedom actually brings joy. There's no right answer. I've learned the dial always changes. I thought I had it worked it out. Then I had a kid, and then it's like, no, I want to spend more time with this little sucker. Then you start making good money, and it's like, well, I got to give it back somehow. Maybe I do free education, and Anna does this for doctors. She runs a doctors group, and then charities and things like that. So it's always just going to keep progressing as time goes on.
Yeah. I think it's I talk to this about with business owner friends as well, and they're like, oh, he's hustling. He's pretty much close to even selling his business for a number but he's still hustling. And I'm like, well, hey, when is there ever going to be a time where you'll just kind of dial back a little bit? And we've got some business ideas that, so to your point, maybe I could not do what I'm saying I'm going to do anyway. I might end up doing things.
Well, it wasn't about you. It was actually a genuine question. And I'm hands on me. I've said things that I'm like, oh, when I get a 50K passive income, I'm done. When I get to, and then the same thing happens in business. It's like, when I get to 500K revenue, I'm done. And then it's just, the dial just keeps moving. And the dial, and similar to this graph, actually is exponential, because the target always moves. It goes from 100K to 200K to 500K to 1 mil to 5 mil. And it's an exponential graph as well. But do you want to maybe, Anna, run us through this graph that Jeff pulled up?
Is it big enough for the audience? Can you see this?
You can zoom in more if you can not be so IT unsavvy and actually zoom in with your mouse instead of clicking buttons.
Well, no, because I have to then, I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
I can see the top one, and I think the bottom one's a bit cut off.
Yeah, that's okay. I can scroll down anyway. I can make it a bit bigger.
There we go.
I mean, I'll just do that, clicking the button. So I think the really illuminating thing for me here, Anna, is that your portfolio didn't really, like, yes, it's not only. So you started this journey in about, let's just say that's probably 2008 roughly, or is it how many, or is that 2005? What year roughly is this year? 2008, where you started to get a couple of deals under your belt in Resi?
Well, I reckon, so this is the graph of Anna being single. So I think that was the time when I had 2.
Yep.
So to work with post-divorce. and then grew it from there. So on my own, I had acquired, another 5, and you can see that it kind of didn't do much for, a good 7 years. So that's one property cycle. So that top graph is the portfolio value. Okay, so that was the value of the portfolio. The yellow is residential, and the blue is commercial, and the green is the total.
Yep.
Okay, so it looked like I had resi up until 2015, and then I purchased commercial.
Yep.
In 2015.
And it was only smaller in terms of commercial as well. Like, we're not talking $10 million commercial. It's let's just say maybe $1 million or just under $1 million by the looks of the scale.
So that particular commercial property was a residential property that had just been rezoned by council into mixed use. So I purchased that one for $600,000, and then spent probably another $500 to convert it, so that a business could be run out of it, so that the tenants could run their business out of it, because it was a house basically that I then converted. So in total, that would have come to 1.1 million back in 2015. So that was the commercial. So that was the yellow. So you can see I then didn't really, and then it was a slow uptake because I didn't really go hard at it until 2020 when I started putting focus on it and purchase more.
I think one of the cool takeaways here as well, you look from, like, say 2015, it's a sub 5 mil portfolio. Then 5 years later, it's a 10 mil portfolio. So portfolio is doubled in value. Then you go another 5 years into 2025, and we're up past 20 million. We're like 23 million, 24 million. And that's the power of compound. It's 5's gone to 10, 10's gone to 20. So over 2 periods, we've actually quadrupled the portfolio. And that's why most salons end up going exponentially.
There was the acquisition in there as well, which did definitely help.
Yeah. Well, again, it's
no. So that's residential. Okay,
Yeah.
So what we've not talked about, that uplift occurred because of the PPOR. So I consider my PPOR to be part of the property portfolio that doesn't produce an income, but because I've debt recycled it, pulled on the equity, and used it to act as a deposit for investment properties, then that uplift is because I actually renovated my house, had it valued by the bank, pulled on that equity to purchase more. So that uplift is actually the PPOR uplift. Yeah.
All right, so I think, Jeff, maybe go to the next one, because this is where it gets really interesting.
This is the powerful one that made me pivot to commercial very quickly. So
orange residential, blue commercial, and then the green again is the total.
Yeah.
For those listening to the podcast, we'll sort of talk to some of the numbers just briefly. But sort of started off in 2015, if you're sort of talking, and you've done it in hundreds of thousands or it's point millions. So your overall rent coming in at 2015 was just under 200,000, so sort of 150,000 roughly. All of that coming from residential. At 2020, that total gross rent was around that 400K mark. Which is when you started acquiring a few more commercials. And then now in 5 years later...
No, Jess. So at 2020, that one commercial surpassed my 5 resi.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
When did you... Oh, so you've got the first commercial...
2015. Yeah. And then it started increasing, and then 5 years later, it surpassed the 5 resis that were still increasing in rent, but nominal in comparison.
Yeah. And then you've effectively gone from total rent of 400,000 in 2020 to at 2025, you're sitting close 5 years later to close to $1 million worth of gross rent from the properties, which is a big growth, which I suppose is helped by a little bit by the income. And we'll ask that. How do you when people say yes, you're a GP? how do you answer that question when people throw that in the mix?
The question regarding how do you do this on the income that one is on? Is that your question?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes, they throw shade at your achievements. They say, "Oh, yeah, it's all good and well for you. You're a GP earning tons of money. Yeah, like it's great that you've now got that huge 25 million portfolio." How do you sort of handle when people throw that objection at you, that you've only done it because you're a doctor, kind of thing?
Yeah. It's a fair question. But like we discussed before, there are a lot of high income earners, doctors or not, who haven't been able to create wealth. And it's because they haven't been strategic in their investing journey. And remember that I built this portfolio over 1.5 decades, starting very early when I was, on $25 an hour, buying small, buying what I could afford, and then building on that. So as my income grew over the years, so did my properties that I had purchased at a low value. So things kind of snowballed with each other. And with that compounding, I could then let it grow more. Yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out, Jeff, she's went into a medical professional that doesn't actually pay a lot of money and then done it herself to make her earn. And she's a very switched on businesswoman. And again, that's probably another podcast episode. Managing businesses, I imagine, Anna, is, especially in the medical field, GP, that's property plus staff plus running a business. Like when if people ask for and shade, it's not easy. Single mom, multiple businesses, building a portfolio, managing all that, like it's you can't throw shade at it.
Wow. I just had somebody message me, and I just had somebody message me, and they've said, listening to the chat with Anna, best one yet, so open. I don't often get messages from people during the live show as well. So good on you, Anna. And what we'll throw to our next sponsor for anybody who needs to take a quick break, but also watch the sponsor, please. Joe, if Joe's watching, we'll be in trouble here. But anyway, and then we'll sort of start to, well, what is the next for you? We did sort of talk to, well, you've got some acquisition there, and some of those really will solidify and crystallize some of those key learnings. So I think we've littered them throughout. But and if anybody has any questions, drop those in the things. We'll be back very soon, everybody, with amazing Anna sharing her journey.
Not very soon, probably 10 minutes. That's too long.
Everywhere you look, someone else is making money in property except for you. Your mate, he just bought a house. It's already gone up $100,000. There's some bloke on Facebook, he's bragging about pulling in a 7% rental yield. Meanwhile, you're stuck scrolling real estate and domain, confused as hell and having no idea about where to start. Or maybe you're that mate that's got $100,000 in equity. You have a few properties under your belt, but you feel stuck. You're unsure about how to scale without over-leveraging and not knowing what the next right move is. So why does it feel like everyone else has some kind of secret that you're missing out on? It's because they do. There's a reason some people keep stacking properties while others sit on the sidelines stacking excuses. There's a reason why some investors buy under market value while others pay too much. There's a reason why investors know the hot spots before there's any heat. And there's a reason that some people build $150,000 in passive income while others just spend years thinking about it. And it comes down to knowledge. And that's exactly why Jeff Miles and I, Joe Tucker, created the Level Up Property course to hand you the exact step-by-step process that we've used to buy over $100 million worth of property in today's market. We've built Australia's largest property investment community with over 80,000 members, and we help everyday investors secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, all without wasting years of their life trying to figure it out the hard way. Making an uneducated decision on the biggest purchase in your life is just gambling with your future.
Stop it. Get some help.
And this isn't just another how to buy property course. Let's be clear though, this course isn't free. What? And neither should it be. This is our life's work. We've spent over 100 hours each on this course alone. Oh, babe. Okay, video number 3. Number 4 with million does... Fuck. Done. We've got decades of experience, millions of dollars in deals distilled into a repeatable process that you can take away for yourself. If you're looking for free advice, there's plenty of noise out there. You can go and find that if you'd like. But if you want real, actionable, step-by-step guided process that works in today's market, then this investment is going to change everything for you. By the time that you finish this course, you will have full confidence. You'll have every tool that you need to build an amazing portfolio if you act on it, right? Which is why we have mentoring built in. So we kick you up the butt to make sure that you're kicking your goals. So the real question is, how much longer are you going to watch everyone else making money in property before you jump in and start playing the property game properly? Because the sooner you start winning.
Here we go. I'm back. Oh, gee. Close the door. But no, whoop, I'm falling over.
As someone who's done the course and who's in the private community, like, it is actually unreal. And similar to Anna with like the inner circle, I'd actually say that's the benefit. You can disagree, Jeff. Like, being in that private community where you've got access to Jeff, Joe, and even me, if you want to have chat commercial, is paramount, because we actually give you our time because we're actually in that group. So sign up, guys. It's an awesome course.
And Steve, I dropped your commercial because somebody's asking, well, where are the resources to learn about commercial? So thanks. I appreciate those kind words. So Anna, what I wanted to know is there was a bit of allusion to it in that graph, but what's next for you in your portfolio, and what do you want to do next? What's the legacy play look like for you?
In property or outside of property?
Both, if you're okay sharing both.
Yeah, let's go both.
Yeah, definitely both. If you're okay.
Quickly in property, although I don't have to, I will, because it's fun and it's a challenge. But the property are anywhere between 5 to 15 years old. They've evolved, right? So a lot of the properties that were purchased deliberately for its upside, so there's that clifftop property that I want to build that duplex on it so that I can enjoy it personally as well as to create an income from it. There are land banking properties that I purchased interstate, at a very low value, low cost at that point. I purchased a half an acre, $200,000 in Bellbird Park. And back then I purchased it for $400,000. Knowing that it was zoned for 18 townhouses, so obviously I've got developers asking and even real estate agents knocking on the doors of myself and the neighbors asking if we pull together and sell it to a developer so they can do what they want to do on it. So there are those considerations. I've said no so far because no reason to sell at this stage, and imagine how much it would be worth in 10 years' time. So there's those considerations. I've recently purchased a beautiful commercial property in Scarborough with Steve, and I can't wait to see how that plays out over the years. But that in itself has got the upside of, being able to build 6-story apartments on top of the retail downstairs, of which we've got five strong tenants in there. So that's the property play. Remember I spoke about the snowball effect, where the projection is, even if I didn't do anything, the returns would be $1.2 million because of the 4% increases that have been factored into the lease agreements on those properties. So there's momentum now. There's really healthy momentum, and I'd like to ride it, because with each wave there is a new door that opens, new learnings to have, and new people to meet. And I really enjoy the journey. I think one doctor said to me, Anna, it's really clear you understand, enjoy the journey more than the destination, because you're not. I was expecting you to really party and pop the champagne bottle after your acquisition, but you've just gone quiet. But you were really, you made a lot of noise leading up to it, because I really realized just how much you enjoyed that journey in the process. So I'm going to just ride the wave as it occurs, and so long as my bandwidth and my health and money allows for it, I'll just roll with it. So that's the property side. On the personal side, listen, I'm rolling with the business. The practice is strong. I've worked really hard to build, a solid reputation for myself, as well as for the practice. I've just gone viral on TikTok. I didn't even know how to open TikTok until I went viral.
Your kids told you, didn't they?
So I'm just going to roll with that. And in terms of, and we discussed about giving back, contribution and making an impact. I will continue to make an impact on those closest to me, like my family and my children and the doctors in the doctors group. I feel very passionate about my peers. I understand firsthand the time, the dedication, and the sacrifices we've all made, things that you kind of don't understand and don't see because people only see the outside gloss and glamour, but underneath it, it's a tough world. And there is no time for my peers to invest in anything outside of medicine. And I really feel passionate. I happen to have stumbled upon this journey and have happened to make it successful, much more successful than I planned. My goal, back in the day, if I was making $100,000, I thought I was a millionaire. But to have the portfolio that I have now, I'm grateful, but I really don't know what to make of it. But what I do want to do is share with my peers my journey so that they can learn from it and learn from my mistakes as well, because they deserve it. They deserve to have those optionalities, outside of their hard-earned career as well. And then things that I don't talk very much about, which is, the kind of the giving that I do outside of active work.
Getting huge.
Yeah, I'm passionate about education, and so locally, I donate to the universities and the medical schools, and I specifically ask that my money be given to medical students who are struggling financially. So it's an application process. I allow the universities to choose the worthy applicant, and they get a significant sum, per year. And it's my wish for them that they can just concentrate on their studies and have enough to just kind of live on and not have to worry too hard about how to, pay for their meal that day or whatever it is that they have to do that could distract them from their studies. So perhaps they could just have a little bit of fun. I know I didn't have fun as a medical student, and I don't wish that for the medical students of today living in Australia. So that's a local impact. And then further abroad, educating females in third world countries like Kenya or Africa is a big deal, because it then empowers them to not seek early marriage or become involved in customs that is detrimental to their health. So the ability to do so, whether it's because I was asked and felt aligned with that to help, or whether it's something that I've sought out myself, the ability to do so is something that I value highly.
I think you're underselling how much you actually mentor other doctors. Like, I know how many doctors message you privately and you give your time to the point you've obviously created a community. You've got Doctors Helping Doctors Grow, where you run conferences now educating people, and basically have cracked open the can of worms where doctors used to not speak about wealth. And now you've actually really removed that curtain, which is lovely.
Yeah. And I suppose just being brave enough, allowing people to see that I'm sharing not because I'm trying to show off about it. I'm sharing because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what the opportunities are until someone says, hey, just by sticking to some really simple fundamentals, this is what time and compounding means, and this is what it looks like. And it's not just theory, it is possible. And I'm just giving you a bit of proof, not to show off, but a bit of proof to say, just do it and do it consistently, because it does work. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I still remember the chat we had on it before one of the conferences, and you came to me right before being like, am I an idiot here for showing like how I structured my portfolio, the properties, the addresses, blah, blah, blah. And I was transparent. I'm like, don't dilute yourself. Like if it's not you, then who is going to show them? Like otherwise we're just trusting clickbaity social media.
Yeah. And I'm not really, I agree with you, Steve. And I remember doing it for the first time 18 months ago, making that decision, agonizing over making that decision, whether I sell or whether I share the information that I share, and really fearing judgment of others, really fearing, I don't know. I feared. It was easier to just keep things to myself. I could live a very comfortable, quiet life and not share anything. So to actually share it was a very scary journey. And I talked to you about it for days or weeks, Steve. I can't remember, but I agonized over the decision to share. It's getting easier. And I credit that to the community who do listen to me. So I started with my own community, which were doctors, and I asked them to keep the information in good faith and understand that it comes from a place of goodness, and to respect it, and they did. And because of that, I feel a little bit safer to now be in your group and to share it to the non-medical community. So I just hope it helps.
And I think it's very relevant for whether you're an engineer, whether you're a tradie, whether you're stacking shelves at Woolies. Yes, it might be Gurav. If you're watching this, there's a little cookie for you, mate. He loves Ribbon Joe on his Woolies shares. The Joe swears off. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. I was going to say it is relevant for everyone, because whether your goal is to get to even a $1 or $2 million portfolio, having those 1 to 2 properties or whatever investing vehicle, go and seek your own financial advice if you need to on other investment asset classes, even property. You need that for loans and accounting. I think it's important that you just recognize that you don't need to compare where you are potentially starting, or even if you're sort of halfway through, to where Anna is now, because Anna's been doing this now for at least 15 years and just learning and having those conversations and earning and sacrificing as well. She's not done it easily. So, and I think that's the same with any investor who's been in the game 10 years plus. You sort of say it is really hard. You have to take a little bit of sacrifice or take it a little bit slower. There's options.
I think it's even harder in the medical field, because you've got, and I know this because I've had many chats with Anna, you're looking at certain specialties and seeing what they're earning, being like, well, I should get that. And I say with buyer's agents, I used to, when I started buyer's agency, look at all the other buyers, they're doing 20 deals a month, I should be doing, and you get sucked into this rat race. And I see every up and coming business do the same thing, but I think you reel it back and work out your why, and then you can actually find that peace.
Really get clear on the why. Definitely. Yeah. Guys, look, there's been some awesome comments come in. Tim said, Anna, wow, and so inspiring. Thank you. And I know, Tim, you've gone through your own trials as well, but also property investing wise and otherwise. Fiona said, Anna, thank you for sharing your story. Erin and Darren said, thanks for sharing. So yeah, everybody's, it's been a very community sort of vibe driven thing today. And that's the thing that when we're doing this live, and I won't put the link up because I probably should, but whether we get 500 people there or whether we get 250, look, I'll be challenging people that are going there in my presentation. So Steve might not be, but I'm not going to be talking too much about the tactics. Yes, I can talk to you about unlimited borrowing capacity at Bungalow after, if you stick around. If you buy me a stone wood, I'll buy you one back or whatever. But no, Anna, this has been an amazing sort of journey hearing. And I feel we've only just peeled back a couple of the onion layers. This is why I wanted to get you on, to hear the raw, authentic, transparent sort of journey that you've gone upon, and yeah, shared things that other people may not be with sort of separating all that. So, Anna, thanks for coming on. What I wanted to, if people want to hear more investor stories, jump on Spotify, give us that 5-star, because that gets us up higher in the rating. We get people like Anna seeing that they can jump on and share their story and get that there. But Anna, I wanted to share, lastly, what are some of the core lessons to crystallize your, what are some of the real things that people should take away from this session?
I suppose from my journey, I would say start small, but start early. Remember, my first 5 homes were all under $500,000. Don't be afraid to debt recycle your home. I see my home as another vehicle towards creating wealth. I have non-negotiables, and I never discussed it, but I have non-negotiables when it comes to finance and lending. So this is just me. This is not financial advice. My non-negotiables are that I always have to have an offset facility or a redraw facility and an offset account. That's what the banks will allow for investments only. So I'm always parking, all those extra repayments into the offset, let it reduce the interest. So I'm trying to balance risk with growth there. Land beats apartments. I wouldn't do apartments again. Apartments grow very slowly, so it's always houses on land that will drive wealth. If I was to do it again, I will always seek places with upside potential. So those that you can buy a granny flat on, anything that you can grow the income while the asset itself appreciates in value. That's how you accelerate your portfolio very, very quickly. You've got to get the income up front and then let time do the growth. And the upside will magnify those 2 points. Construction rule: never prepay invoices, only pay after the work has been done. I try to have a quite a conservative LVR, so I'm going to try and bring it down to 50% again. And I suppose the final point is, if you were to take anything from my story, it would be that your beginning doesn't define your future.
That's a perfect way to end, I think, Jeff.
Yeah. You can build a financial security with the right strategy and with any amount that you have or don't have.
I think you need to write a book, Anna. I think I know somebody who can help you get maybe the research.
I'm already trying to get her to write books and courses, Jeff. Don't worry.
We're working on it. Yeah.
Okay. I will help you. I'll sort of proof and do all that sort of stuff if you need it. But you don't know that you need me. Anna, what would you love to say, people? If people want more of Anna in their lives, how do they reach out or find more about you? What's the best way to find out more about Anna?
If you're a doctor, search for doctors helping doctors grow on Facebook, because that's where most doctors live when it comes to social media. Please answer the questions. That will make my life really easy. So join me on there for chats about investing and finance. And for everyone else, I'm quite active on LinkedIn as well, so you can find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. And look, I think there could be a book coming sometime soon as well. Maybe, hopefully. I'd love to read that book. I would. Yeah. So, Steve, was there anything we missed that we needed to cover off? Or Anna,
no, I think we've got to get it back. I obviously know Anna's portfolio very well, been working for her for some time. And it's been that hard balance, like we mentioned before, about disclosing too much, but still giving enough that there's actually some premise behind what we're talking about. But Anna, I just want to point out, she hasn't done this from getting lucky or a doctor's salary. It's been bloody hard work. And she mentioned before, and this is really resonates with me, not seeing her kids at the younger years was an incredible sacrifice that you had to make. I don't think you really had a big choice. It would have been stepping away from medicine or not. But now you're reaping the benefits of it. So no, you know what I think about you.
No, thank you, Steve. I love you too. Until Lisa.
Okay, everybody, let's go invest in a property. And thanks amazing for sharing your amazing story. And I know it's only chapter 1 or 2, so it's all coming along, snowballing. Thanks very much, Anna, and thanks for co-hosting as well, Steve. Catch you on the next one, team.
Thank you so much for having me. Your community is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.